Good everyone, my name is Graphics. Today we want to solve another problem in Tangency. Now if you look at your top corner, that is the diagram we are trying to replicate. Now I've brought out a bigger diagram to make it easier for us to understand. Now this is what we are drawing, right? Now look at the question here. If you look at what we have here, in problem 11, you say we should draw what? Half full size. Now look at in front of your screen. This is problem 11 here that is displayed in front of your screen. And what is in front of it? So we should draw what? Half full size. So whatever we are drawing, we draw half of half of the dimension that is being given, right? Now where's the dimension? Look at the top corner, you see what we have there. Problem 11. So let's start. Now that means whatever we are doing, we need half full size of them. Like if this is 128, you are going to be using 64 here, right? And if this is 50, it means you are going to be using 25 since it's radius. And this is diameter of 50. The radius is what? 25. So the radius you'll be using here will be 25 divided by 2. So our radius for this guy will be what? 12.5. Don't forget that this will be what? 12.5. That will be the radius that we'll be using here, because we're using half full size. Because normally radius of diameter of 50 is the radius is 25, so divide by 2 is what? 12.5. And this, the radius is what? 12 divided by 2 again. Our radius here will be what? Will be 8. Will be 6. Sorry, because 12 divided by 2 is what? 6. That is half the full size. Here will be 25. And what? 25. Here also will be 25. Here will be 16. Here will be 19 since it is 38. Here will be 13. Right? Here also will be 25. Here will be 19. Right? Here will be half of it is the radius is naturally the radius is 8 divided by 2 again. We'll be having what? 4. So our radius here will be what? 4. Right? Here the radius here is going to be 32. The distance here will be 32. Here also will be what? 32. That's what I'll be using. Here the diameter is 102 and half of it is what? Is 51. Now if you divide 51 by 2, you'll be having 25.5. So the radius here we'll be using to draw the circle will be what? 25.5. The reason why I'm doing all these things is to make what we are doing to be what? Easy. Here will be what? 13. That will be using radius of 13. Here, what else again? Here the radius of this will be what? 8. We'll be using 8 here. Radius of 8. Right? That is half full size. Then what else again are we dealing with? Here also we know it is what? 13 also. So the radius will be what? 13. And radius here also will be what? 13. Now what else again are we dealing with? Now we've done everything that we need, right? So it's for you to now replicate the drawing and see how we can go about it. Now let's start. Now the first thing you first of all draw your vertical line. Are we good? So let's draw the vertical line first and see how it goes. So if I place my set square, my t square, let's assume this my rule is representing my what? My t square, right? So if I replicate it, I'm going to be having something like this. Let's use faint line first, right? I'm using faint line. So we'll start from the lowest point here, which is this. Now at any point here, I will draw my horizontal line. Just any point, reasonable point. So if I place my rule this way, probably at this point here, I'm going to draw an horizontal line with the help of my t square, and I will draw an horizontal line this way, faint line, right? Now they are meeting at this point here. This is my center point here, right? That is the first thing you do. Now if you look at this circle here, this diagram here, right? This center point is this center point. But what is the dimension? What is the radius of this circle here? If you look at it now from the left here, you see 3 buses. Why are the buses? 1, 2, 3. This is the buses here, and their diameter is 50. So the radius I'll be using, just like I said earlier, will be what? 12.5. So I'll use 12.5 to draw these 3 circles. So let's first of all draw this 3 circle with what? Radius of 12.5. Let's see that. So the first one here will be the radius of what? 12.5. So it is better and easier if you take your meter rule. See what I want to do now. 12.5 is the half of what? Of 25, right? To make it easier, I'll just come to somewhere on my paper and I'll measure 50, right? This is 50 here. From here to here is 50, right? So 25 is half of it. So this is 0, 10, 20. This is 25 here. That is half of 50. So the beginning from here to here is 50. Then half of it is what? 25. That means if I bisect 25 from here to here, I'll have something like this. Here's what I'm having here. So if I use my meter rule, I join those 2 points together from here to here, right? I'm going to be having the center point to be here. So it means that from this point to this point is what? 12.5, right? And from here to here is what? Is 25. And the entire one of them here is what? Is 50. So instead of me going to my meter rule, I'll just come here to measure 12.5. I'll come from here to here to measure 25, and so on and so forth. So let's take that of 12.5 and see, because we said this is from here to here. To make it work faster and easier, this is 12.5 here, right? You can see that 12.5. So I'll come to my diagram back and I'll draw my circle at this point, which is 12.5. So I'll thicken it. So that is 12.5. So what I just successfully draw here is this bigger circle. Now I want to trace the other circle. For me to trace that circle, it means that from this center here, which is this center here, right? I am going to measure an height of what? Of 50. But I will not use 50 now. What I'll be using is what I wrote earlier. That will be what? 25, because they say half the distance. So 25. So I'll measure 25 upward. So let's do that. So from this point here, I'm going to measure 25. So this is 25 here. I can easily still go back to that, or let me just use my meter rule. This is 25 here, right? So from here I'll measure 25 to this point, because this is 0, 10, 20, and what? 25. So this is where my 25 ends. Now at that point here, right, I'm going to use my meter rule and draw an horizontal line with the help of your T-square. So with the help of my T-square, because I'll draw my horizontal line. So in doing that, this is what we have in here, right? So I'll just draw an horizontal line this way. So this is the other point here where they meet. This point here is this point here, right? Is this point here. This here is this, and this here is this, right? So to the left is 50, to the right is 50, just like what you see here. From this point here to this point is what? 50. From this point to this point 50, but we're using what? 25. So I'll measure 25 left and right. So it is easier to use my rule, right? So I can move from 0 to 25 here. You can see that, right? And I'm going to come at this point here. I'm going to mark 25 and what? 25. Is that taken? So at that point is another center. This center you see here and this center you see here is this center and this center. But mind you, we said 3 buses. Every one of them have the same diameter. This, and this are all the same, right? So I want to draw the next guy here, which is the same as the first guy. So I will use the same measurement of here, right, which is 12.5. I'm going to place it here. Start taking, and I'm going to thicken it. You can see that. That is the other guy. Now if you look at your diagram again, the third bus that we have here is this, but it is 26 away from here, from this point here. This point I'm pointing here is this point here. It says 26 away from here, but mind you, we're using half of the distance, so it will be what? 13 that I'm going to use, right? So I'm going to measure 13 with my meter rule. I can just place it here. This is 13 here, right? So this is 13 at this point here. So if this is 13, this is 13 here. This is 0, 10, 11, 12, 13, right? So I'll do the same thing. It's the same measurement because you say 3 buses all having the same measurement. So I'll place it here. I'm going to draw another circle here, right? So these are the 3 circles, that we have here, which is 1, 2, 3 buses, diameter 50, half of it, the rest is 25. We're using half of the size, that we're using 12.5. Is that taken? Now there's another one here which is giving us, the rest of this guy is given there, right? So there are some circles inside, and the radius of those circles is what? Is 6. I told you earlier in the video how I got that 6, right? So I'll measure 6 of those circles inside. So let's do that. So I'll measure 6 on my meter rule. I'm going to measure 6 on my meter rule. From here to here is 6, right? So if I come here, I'm going to place it here at the center here, and I'll just draw my 6. And I'll come here also. I'll do the same thing too. I'll draw my 6 also. Right? I'll come here also. I'm going to do the same thing too. The 6. So these are the 3 circles that we have there. Now the other one here that we have is giving us half of it, giving us 32, right? So the one we're using for that 32 is going to be just half of it is 16, but now we're going to be using 8 because it's half of whatever we have. Naturally the radius is what? 16. So since it's half full size, so we're going to be using half of 15, which is what? 8. I'm going to use my 8. I'll measure it on my meter rule, right? So my meter rule, I'll measure 8. So place it here to this point here is 8. Alright, so I'll come and place it at this point, and I'm going to measure my 8. So the 8 that I'm measuring, so that is 8 there, right? So in doing that, now we need to draw the arc connecting the circles, right? That will be the next step we want to do. We want to draw the arc connecting the circles. There's an arc connecting here. There's another arc connecting here, right? Now I told you earlier that this is when it is as if there's a porthole, right? The circle is what? Is external. You can see that. So any porthole you have to fill to reduce accident. So filling means you're adding. So you're going to add. So what will I do? I'm going to add this radius. I will not use the 50 because I'm using half of the distance. So it will be 25 plus the diameter of this circle, the radius of this circle, which is 12.5. So 25 plus 12.5, knowing fully well that this, and this are all the same. Is that okay now? Including this here. Are you with me? So I'll add 25 plus 12.5. Look at what I want to do now. 25 plus 12.5, that is 37.5. So on my meter rule, I'll measure 37.5 on my meter rule. So if I should start from 0 here, and this is 30, this is 35, this is 36, 37.5 here, right? So I'm going to place it, since I told you 3 circles are the same, so I'll place it here, right? I'll strike an arc up, I'll come here also, I'll strike an arc this point, and I'll use one and cut this also. I'll come here also, I'll do the same thing, cut up here, right? But there's one here, which is this one here that we're seeing here, which is this here. The two are the same, so I'll do the same thing for both of them to make my work faster and easier, to avoid repetition. So when I place it here, I will cut down here, and I'll place it here also, I'll cut down here. So where they meet, I'll place it at this point where they meet. Their point of what? Intersection. Let me zoom this up so you got to see what I'm trying to say. So I'll place it here, right? And I'll place my compass at this point. So I'll join these two circles together. I'll take in them. You can see that. I'll come here also, the same radius. I'll do the same thing and join these two together, right? So in doing that, sorry, let me be strong with that. So I'll have this, you can see that, and I'll come here also, I'll do the same thing here too at this point where they meet, and I'll join these two together. So this is what we have there. So what I've successfully done is I've done this arc and this arc together with this arc. Now it's remaining this, this, and this. Now knowing fully well that 1, 2, 3 are all the same, right? They are similar. So what I'll do is the radius of this we are using here is 8, right? So 8, why this is giving us this bigger one here. So 8 plus 25 will give us what? Let's see. We have 33. So we said the radius of this circle plus the radius of this circle here, because this is the same as this one here, is 50. Is 25 plus 8 is what? 33. So I'll use 33. I'll place it at this point here, which is the same thing as this point here, and I'll measure 33 and I'll mark. So let me measure 33 here. So we're measuring 33 from 0, right? From 0 to this point here is 33, right? And I'll place it here, and I'm going to strike an arc 33, right? Now the other one will be for this bigger circle, which we know it is 12.5 earlier here. This is 12.5 plus 25, and that's going to give us 37.5. So I'm going to measure 37.5 here, right, on my meter rule. I'll measure 37.5. So let's see that. From here to here is 37.5, right? So I'll place it at this point and strike here. Since these two are the same, I'll come here also, I'll strike here, right? And I'll come this one that is giving me this, I'll use it to cut this. So the way it is, I'm going to join them together. So in joining them together, I'll have something like this, right? You gauge it until you get what you want, which is this. And I'll come here also. Now I said they're all the same. I'll join this one together, and I'll be having this here. So I'll join these two together, right? So this will give me this. Is that okay? Now in doing that, I still have another one here, which is this, right? So what I will do is the same thing. What I use, I place it here to get this, right? So I also use it to get here, and I place it here to get the other one here. Sorry, to get the other one here. You can see this. To get this, and and I'll use it to strike the other part here. So they are all meeting at this point here. So I'm going to use it to draw my arc, right? So I'll draw my arc from that point. Can you see that? So this is what I have here. So I have successfully, drawn everything I have to draw here. So the next thing is to go to the other aspect here. So let me take this back to where it actually belongs. Now the next thing I want to do, this point here, you see this line you are seeing here, is the same as this line that you're seeing here. So we are now told that from that line I just pointed out to you, if you look at it, up to this other line that give me the other center is what? 128. But I'm using half of the distance, which is what? 64. So I'm measuring 64 from that point. So in doing that, measuring 64 from that point, now let's see. I'll place my compass at that, my rule at that point here. So my 0 is really starting from here, right? So I'll measure 64. So from 0 to 6 is 60, then this is 64 here, right? So that 64 is another center. So on that center, I'm going to draw an horizontal line that will bisect it, right? So this will give me this, right? To give me what? To give me that. Is that making? Now, if you look at this also, there's a circle, a bigger circle at here. Now, we are told the diameter of the circle is 102, the radius will be 51. We're using half of the radius, which is what? 25.5, which I wrote here. So from there, we have 25.5. So I'm going to measure 25.5. So placing it here, from here to this point is 25, and 25.5 is what we have here, right? 25.5 at the center at this point here. So, or if you remember what I did earlier, that I measured this, right? You can remember. So this is 25.5 also at this point here. Is that taking 25.5? So let's move forward. So 25.5, you measure it on your meter rule to save our time. 25.5, this is 25.5 is here, right? And I'm going to place it at this point here. Place at this point here, right? And I'll draw a circle this way. You're taking it as bold as you want it to be. Now that is 25.5. Now, after doing that, the 25.5 that you did here, which is this, there's another one inside again, which is what? Diameter of 50. Half of 50 is 25. So we need half of the radius, which is what? 12.5. So I'm going to measure 12.5 here. I know this circle here is 12.5, but I can just use my meter rule, or I use this, any of them, because this is my circle earlier is 12.5. Or on your meter rule, you measure 12.5 from 0 to this point here. From 0 to here is 12.5, right? This 12.5 here. So I'll just place it at the center, and I'm going to draw the other one here. You can see that. So we're moving. Now if you look at this also, this is my diagram here. From this point, whatever I'm drawing now is in top right corner of the screen. From this point to this point here is 64, and from this point to this point here is another 64, but I'm using half of the distance, just like the question suggested. So this is 32 and 32. So I'm going to measure 32 on my meter rule. It's easier and better that way. I'll measure 32 from here to this point here. This is 32 here, right? 32 here. Now I'll place it at the center here, and I'm going to mark on the left and also on the right. Is that okay? Now that is the next stage. So from those points, if you look at what we have here on the left and what on the right, these 2 points I've done that. Now there's another circle here, an arc here, right? So what I'm going to do is that, so the radius here, right, is giving us, look at the arrow here, that is 16. Let me zoom in so you see the radius is given to be what, 16, and it is symmetrical. When I mean, if you divide it into 2, what is on the left hand side is equals to what is on the right hand side, right? So this is what, 16. Is that taken? So I'll use half of it, which is what, 8. So I'll use 8 to draw my first circle. I'll use 8 to draw my other circle here. So let's do that. So if I come, let me take it back. So I'm using 8. So my meter rule, I'm going to measure 8. So from this point, from 0 to here is 8. Right, this is the 8 that I'll have here, right? And I'll come on that point, place it here. I'll measure 8. Faint line first. I'll come on this other point also. I'm going to measure 8. Now I've done those two, right? So the next thing I'm going to do again from my diagram here is that if you look at this here, there's another hole or circle inside, right? And we are giving it to be from here, we say 2 holes, meaning this hole and this hole. And they are what? Diameter is 16, their radius will be 8, so you divide that 8 by 2, we'll be having what? 4. So those holes, the radius of them will be what? 4. So you measure 4 on your meter rule this way. You measure 4 on your meter rule this way. Measuring the 4 from here to here is 4, right? And you place it on that point, and you just draw your circle, and you come here also, you do the same thing. You just draw your circle. So that is one that we have there. If you look at this point here, right, this is like a hole. It's the circle we're trying to join together. They are all external, right? And it's like a hole, and a hole you feel mean you are adding. So you add the radius of this and this radius, you strike an arc. You add the radius of this and this radius, also strike another arc. So let's start with this. This is 25.5 plus half of this, which is 13. That'll give us 38.5. So I'm going to measure 38.5 on my meter rule. I'll measure 38.5 on my meter rule. From here to here is 38.5. Right? In between 0.9 and 0.8, we have 38.5. Sorry. Is 38.5 here. Right? And I'll place it at this point here, the center here. I'll strike an arc here. I'll strike another arc here. I'll strike at all the 4 points here to be more easier that way. You see what I did? Now the next thing is, if you look at the other one now, the smaller circle here, which is this, right? There are 2 of them, and the rest of them they are what? 16. So I'll divide it by 2, I'll be having 8. So 8 plus what? 13. That'll give us 21. So I'm going to measure 21 on my meter rule. This is from here to here is 21, right? I'll place it at this point. I'll cut here. I'll also cut here. I'll place it at this point. I'll cut here. I'll also cut here. So from here, I'll gauge it to touch the circumference of this, and I'm going to join them together, right? So I'll join them to what? Together. So this will give us something like this. I'll come here also. I'll do the same thing here too. I'll place it here. I'll join these two together. You can see that. So from here, I have this, right? I'll come here also. I'll do the same thing too between here and here. I'll gauge it. I'll be having this. I'll come here too. I'll do the same thing. You should gauge them, right? So I'll be having this. Is that okay? So we've done that aspect. Now the next thing we are doing here is to do this guy here. To do what? This other guy here. Now what you do is, this 50 mark here, from here to here is 50, you take them up, because this 50 here, you see this mark here, this 50 is on the same line as this, right? So I'll just extend the 50 upward. So the 50 mark is here. You can see that. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Just draw a straight line this way. Straight line. I'll come here also. I'll do the same thing. Just draw a straight line this way. So that is the 50 mark there we have. Now if you look at this, at this point here, right, you have the radius of that arc that connects with that straight line. There's an arc, and the rest of that arc is given to be what? 38. So you use half of it, which is 19, and you extend it from this point to where that vertical line is. Extend it 19. So I'll use my meter rule. I'll measure it from here, and I'll measure 19 from this point. So the 19 I'll measure from this point here will be, this is 0, 10, and this is 19, right? I'll do the same thing here also. 19, this is 19 here at this point too. So I'll just try, and I'll extend this too. Is that good? So I'll just use my faint line, just draw a vertical line. I'll come here, I'm doing them simultaneously. It saves you time. So I'll have this. I'll do the same thing here too. Draw this way. Now in doing that, the next thing we are going to do now is that if you look at this our diagram here, the diagram that we have here is also external, so we are going to add. So we are going to add this 19, the radius of this 19, right, plus the radius of this bigger circle, which is what? 8, because we are dividing the radius of this of 16 by, it will be 8. So 8 plus 19 is what? 8 plus 19, that will give us 27. So I'll measure 27, right? So I'll measure 27 on my meter rule. Measure 27 on my meter rule, right? Measure 27 on my meter rule. From here to here is 27, right? Is 27 here, and I'll place it at this center here, right? And I'll cut here. Are you with me now? So from where it meets at this point, I'll get my arc that's going to connect these two circles. Are taking? I'll connect the two what? The two circles. Let's do that and see. You can see that? I've done that. Now this one now is bigger. So it will be 12.5 plus 19, because this is 12.5, right? Plus 19. So 12.5 plus 19, 12.5 plus 19, that will give us, this is 1, that will be 31.5. So I'm going to measure 31.5 on my meter rule also. 31.5 on my meter rule. This is from here to here, this is 31.5, somewhere around here, right? And I'm going to come at this point here, I'll strike an arc. So where they meet on that vertical line, I'm going to place my compass at that point, right? I will gauge it to that vertical line, and I'll have this. So let's just do that and see. You can see that? So I'll be having this. You can see that? Now the next thing I'm going to do again is this. So it's also adding. So what I'll do is still that 19, but by this time now it will be adding it with what? With 8, because this circle here, the rest is what? 8, like I said earlier. So 8 plus 19, that is 27. So I'm going to measure 27 on my meter rule. 27 on my meter rule. And I'll be having this 27 here, right? And I'll place it at this center point here, where it cuts here is my point. since they are the same, where I place it here, where it cuts here is another point here. So placing my compass at the same point, I'm going to gauge it. So gauging it, I'll be having something like this, right? Can you see that? I'll come here also, I'll be having something like this. So I'll just gauge it from here. I'll be getting something like this. Is that okay? So now what you do now, if you look at this, connecting this together. So I'll just draw my straight line from here, and I'll just connect this to it. Yeah. And if I come here like this, I'll connect this with this. Is that okay? Now if you look now, I've successfully drawn this. Is that okay? So what I will do is I'll start drawing my center line and my dimensioning. So in doing my dimensioning, I will from here connect this. I have a straight line, short line, straight, short, straight, short, straight, to show that it is circle. I'll do the same thing here also. Just copy and paste, right? Just copy and paste. Can you see that? So then I'll do for this also a straight line from this point. I'll have this long, short, long, short, long, short, long one, short one, long one, and so on and so forth. Right? So I'll draw this straight down. Long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. Then here also I'll do the same thing too. I'll have a long one, short one, long one, short one, long one, short one, and so on. And we are told that these two here is giving us from here to here. It's giving us at this point, this point. Just write the normal dimension given. This is 50 and this is 50, right? So I have 50 here also at this point here. We have the 50 at this point here. So you write the normal dimensioning. So that will be 50 also, right? So we have here to be 52, radius 50. So you just do the same thing that you have here. So this is radius what? Radius 50, right? This is from this point to this point is 128. So on the long run, you'll be having the same thing as this. So from here to here is 128. So when you are done, you're going to be having this. So you'll be having this, right? So this is what you'll be having by the time you put your dimension. So this is, we have successfully replicated the diagram is in your screen at the top right corner, on your screen at the top right corner. So if you find the video helpful, please don't forget to click on the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.